It's infrastructure in Africa, right?
Yep, the PIDA, and we're looking at Program for Infrastructure Development in Africa.
PIDA's overarching goal is to help create a well-connected and prosperous Africa by strengthening regional infrastructure in key areas like transportation, energy, water, and ICT.
The program acknowledges the complex nature of infrastructure implementation and highlights the importance of coordinated action across all levels, from the African Union and regional economic communities down to individual countries.
So the raised questions are:
what are the primary goals of the PIDA, and how does it intend to achieve them?
how does PIDA address the unique challenges of infrastructure development in Africa, particularly considering its colonial past and the fragmented nature of its economies?
What are the potential benefits of PIDA implementation for Africa's economy, society, and integration with the global community?
Afrotaking all this on the economic pulse of Africa's banner. And this is powered by Brand Blended Media.
This is Afrotake, the economic pulse of Africa with Nate and Janine. Let's dive in.
Hey everyone and welcome. I'm Janine.
I'm Nate, and we're Afro-taking developments in Africa.
Today we're going deep on PI.
PII.
Yeah.
The Program for Infrastructure Development in Africa.
Ah.
If you want to know how Africa is planning its future,
Okay.
we're going to figure that out by using the African Union's own materials on PIDA.
Sounds good.
And trust me, it's going to get really interesting.
Okay.
We're talking about cheaper energy, boosting trade, and PIA even impacting global connectivity.
Wow.
Did you know that PIA could save Africa a massive $30 billion every year just on electricity production?
Wow, that's a lot.
Yeah, it is. Stick with us and let's see how this could impact you. So when we talk about infrastructure,
Yeah.
a lot of times people just think about like roads and bridges, but it's so much more than that.
Right.
And what's really interesting here is that Africa's infrastructure deficit is a huge problem.
Okay.
It affects everything, like economic growth and daily life.
Yeah.
Imagine trying to get your products to market, but the roads are unreliable,
Right.
or like frequent power outages disrupt your production line.
Right.
Yeah, that would be bad.
This is the reality for a lot of businesses in Africa.
Yeah.
And it's a major drag on economic growth, as much as 2% every year,
2% where?
according to the African Union.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're seeing the big picture.
Yes.
But for the average person, how does this affect their daily life?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Think about it this way. How much more would you pay for groceries if transportation costs were higher because the roads are so bad?
Oh, for sure, a lot more.
Right. Or, like, how would your life be different if you couldn't rely on consistent electricity
Yeah.
for your home or your business?
Yeah, that would be awful.
Yeah. And these are the types of challenges that many Africans face every single day because of this infrastructure gap.
So it really is a continent-wide problem
Yeah.
that needs a continent-wide solution.
Exactly.
And that's where PB comes in.
Yes.
PAD is a multi-sector program that tackles some big areas like transport, energy,
Yeah.
transboundary water, and even ICT.
ICT.
It's all about connecting Africa,
Right.
both physically and digitally.
Yeah. PIDA provides a framework for connecting Africa in a way that everyone benefits. Think about the early days of the European Union.
Okay.
It started with a vision for economic cooperation
Yeah.
and infrastructure development. Could PID be setting up something similar for Africa?
That's a great comparison.
Yeah.
Especially when you consider that PID has some big partners behind it.
Oh, yeah.
You've got the African Union Commission,
Uh-huh.
the new Partnership for Africa's Development,
Okay.
and the African Development Bank all working together.
Have we seen this kind of collaboration
Yeah.
on other big infrastructure projects?
It's definitely rare to see this level of coordination
Right.
and commitment on such a large scale.
Yeah.
This isn't just about building roads and bridges.
Uh-huh.
PIDA is about building the foundation for a more integrated and prosperous Africa.
Exactly.
It's about creating opportunities for trade, investment, and jobs.
All right, so let's dig into those objectives.
Yeah. PIDA wants to speed up regional integration, boost trade, spark economic growth,
Okay.
and of course create jobs.
Right.
But how does this actually help people?
Yeah. What could this mean for, like, the average person?
Imagine a future where you can just travel across Africa easily
Okay.
without all of the logistical nightmares and delays that we see today.
Right.
Imagine businesses just flourishing because they can transport goods and services across borders with no problem.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Imagine abundant food. thanks to better irrigation systems.
Okay.
That would mean cheaper groceries and less food insecurity,
That would be amazing.
right? Imagine everyone having easy access to information and opportunities through better internet.
Yeah.
These are just some of the things that PI wants to do.
So it's all about improving the quality of life
Yeah.
for everyday people. But how does all of this become reality? We're
Well,
talking about a huge project here.
PI has an implementation strategy.
Okay.
It's called IADE.
IA Day.
Yeah, the Institutional Architecture for Infrastructure Development in Africa.
Okay.
It coordinates all the efforts on the continental, regional, and national level.
So IA Day is like the glue
Yeah,
that holds everything together.
pretty much.
But you can't just snap your fingers and make a continent-wide infrastructure network appear overnight.
Right.
What are some of the real challenges that PID is facing?
Well, one of the biggest challenges is getting enough funding.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
These projects are huge and need a ton of money.
Right.
Another challenge is getting the private sector involved.
Yeah.
They're really important for making PI Day a success.
So we've got the funding,
Uh-huh.
the private sector.
Yeah.
But what about the people who actually live there?
Mhm.
How can we be sure that PID projects benefit local communities?
Yeah, that's where the idea of local ownership comes in.
Okay.
PI Days stresses the importance of communities being involved in the planning and building. This means that projects should be designed to meet local needs and priorities.
Okay.
After all, they are the ones who will actually benefit from better infrastructure.
Right.
Makes sense.
But these huge infrastructure projects,
Yeah.
they take years, sometimes decades.
Right.
How do you keep people excited and show them that PI is actually working in the short term?
Well, that's a great question.
Yeah.
You're right. It's critical to keep that momentum going. So one strategy is to focus on what we call quick wins.
Quick wins.
Yeah, these are smaller scale projects that can be finished relatively quickly and give actual benefits to the communities.
Okay.
This builds confidence and shows people that PI isn't just some big idea. It's actually happening.
So we're starting to see how PI is coming together, the vision, the people involved, the challenges, and the potential for real change.
Exactly.
But I think it's time to get even more specific.
Okay.
Let's really paint a picture of what Africa could look like if PIA actually works.
Okay.
What real changes can we expect?
Well, imagine a continent where energy is cheap
Okay.
and almost everyone has access to electricity.
Yeah.
Think about that, $30 billion saved every year in electricity production.
Wow.
That money could be used for education, healthcare, or even making the internet cheaper in rural communities.
Yeah, that would be huge.
This could really attract foreign investment and help local businesses grow.
So it's not just energy.
Right.
What about transportation?
Yeah.
What does it look like when you have good transportation networks all across Africa?
Imagine goods moving across borders, easily connecting producers to markets in a way that we've never seen before. This would completely change trade within Africa.
Yeah.
And the benefits go beyond just the economy.
Right.
Imagine the possibilities for tourism,
Yeah.
cultural exchange, or even just visiting family and friends in different parts of the continent.
Right.
PI Day has the potential to bring Africa closer together, both literally and figuratively.
This all sounds really promising.
Yeah.
But I'm curious about the impact beyond Africa's borders. PIDA also aims to make global connectivity better. What does that actually mean?
Think about the internet.
Okay.
One of PI Day's goals is to increase broadband access by 20%.
20%.
Yeah, that means more people will be able to access information, education, and jobs in the digital economy.
Yeah.
This is all about connecting Africa to the rest of the world.
Okay.
So the continent can fully participate in the global market and share its unique talents and resources.
So we've talked about the challenges, the goals, and the incredible potential of PID, but actually doing a program this big is really difficult.
Yeah, it is.
What are some of the ongoing problems that PIA has to deal with?
Well, one of the biggest challenges is working on these projects that cross multiple countries.
Okay.
Each country has its own laws, regulations, and priorities.
Right.
It takes a lot of diplomacy and cooperation.
Yeah, for sure.
Another challenge is getting enough money in the long term.
Okay.
These projects need a lot of investment. And it's hard to find dependable sources of financing.
Right, especially with the global economy changing so much.
Exactly. Yeah.
And we can't forget about making sure PIDA benefits all of Africa,
Yeah.
not just certain areas or countries.
Right.
How do we make sure that everyone benefits from these infrastructure improvements?
Well, fairness and making sure everyone's included needs to be a priority for PIDA.
Okay.
This means focusing on projects in areas that haven't seen a lot of development, giving local businesses and communities a chance to be part of the process, and making sure that everyone benefits from better infrastructure.
So it's about building a more fair and prosperous future for all Africans.
Exactly.
So we've explored the vision, the challenges,
Yeah.
and the potential of PID.
Right.
But I have a question.
Okay.
We've seen how big and transformative PIDA is for Africa. But could it be a model for other continents?
That are having their own problems with infrastructure.
It's an interesting question.
Yeah.
Every region has its own challenges.
Right.
But there are definitely valuable lessons to be learned from how PID is doing things.
Yeah, okay.
Focusing on continental cooperation, prioritizing regional integration, making sure local communities are involved. These are ideas that could be used in other parts of the world facing similar problems.
It's fascinating to think about the impact PID could have.
Yeah.
Could it inspire a global movement towards more collaborative and sustainable development?
Yeah, it's an exciting thought.
It goes beyond just infrastructure. PID is really about connecting everything.
Right.
It's about creating a world that is more integrated and prosperous.
Yeah.
It reminds us that we're all connected and that working together is the only way to solve the problems we all face.
That's right.
So as we wrap up this first part of our deep dive into PID, what are the key takeaways for our listeners? Well, first, PIDA is a bold program with the potential to really change Africa. It can unlock its economic potential.
Okay.
It's complex
Yeah.
and definitely has challenges.
Right.
But the commitment from African leaders, the support from development partners,
Yeah, okay.
and the involvement of local communities gives us reason to be hopeful.
And it represents a powerful vision for a more integrated and prosperous Africa.
Exactly.
A vision that could inspire the world.
Definitely.
But there's still so much more to explore.
Yeah, we've just scratched the surface here. We'll be back to dig deeper into how PIDA is being implemented
Okay.
and its impact on different sectors like transportation, energy, water, and food security.
Sounds good.
Stay tuned.
Our commitment to Africa's economic development drives our passion for developing leading-edge infrastructure to help propel robust economic growth. By 2040, Africa's infrastructure will have undergone a phenomenal transformation, with the primary focus in turnkey projects that will have long-term impact on economic growth. Energy. We are committed to increasing capacity in power generation, improving grid infrastructure, and boost supply to meet growing commerce and industry needs, and in the process, ensure uninterrupted productivity. Water, building new dams, reservoirs, and pipelines to enable reliable water supply for agriculture and industry. This will improve industrial and agricultural output, ensuring long-term job creation and food security. Transport. Ramping up capacity in road, rail, seaports, and air transportation networks to ensure that trade, the movement of goods, as well as people around the continent or destinations abroad is fast and efficient. ICT, investing in new age technology that will boost capacity in communications and data transmission capability, enhancing the continent's capacity to participate in international business transactions and give a fillip to inbound investment. PIDA, the Program for Infrastructure Development in Africa.
This is Afrotake, the economic pulse of Africa with Nate and Janine. Let's dive in.
Okay, so let's get into that next part now.
All right, sounds good.
We were talking about energy costs and access to electricity.
Yeah, those are big ones.
Can you give us some specific examples of what PIDA is doing to make that happen?
Absolutely. One of PIDA's biggest projects is the Grand Inga Dam. It's in the Democratic Republic of Congo.
Okay.
It could become the largest hydropower project in the world.
Wow. The largest.
Yeah, just imagine the impact that would have on industrial development, job creation, and improving the lives of millions of people.
Yeah, that would be huge.
Right.
That's a massive project.
It is.
What are some of the technical challenges?
Well, the Grand Inga Dam faces a lot of challenges.
Like what?
The engineering is really complex. We have to be careful about the environment.
Okay.
And it needs a lot of investment.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But the potential benefits,
Right.
like clean energy and regional economic growth,
Yeah.
make it a project worth doing.
Okay, so PID isn't just about these massive continent-wide projects.
Right.
It's also focused on smaller projects that can really help at a local level.
You're right.
Yeah.
One example is the regional power pools.
Okay.
These connect neighboring countries so they can share electricity.
That's smart.
It makes energy more secure,
Okay.
reduces the need for expensive fossil fuels,
Right.
and encourages countries to work together.
So instead of each country trying to do it all themselves, they work together to create a more reliable energy grid.
Exactly.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it's much more efficient.
But what about transportation? Africa is so big and diverse.
Yes,
PIE must have a lot to say about that.
absolutely.
Yeah.
PIA focuses on developing good transportation corridors
Okay.
that connect major cities and economic hubs across the continent. This includes things like upgrading roads and railways,
Okay.
building new highways and bridges,
Yeah.
and improving port facilities.
Right.
The goal is to make transportation cheaper, make it easier for people and goods to move around,
Yeah.
and create seamless connections between different parts of Africa.
Okay. So say I'm a business owner in Kenya
Okay.
and I want to export my products to Nigeria. How would PID make that easier for me?
Imagine you can transport your goods by train from Nairobi to Lagos
Okay.
without having to deal with multiple border crossings,
Yeah.
customs delays,
Right.
or logistical problems.
That would be amazing.
That's the kind of connection that PID is working towards.
Yeah.
By making trade routes simpler and cheaper, PID is creating an environment where businesses can thrive and economic opportunities are shared more easily across the continent.
So that would make my business more competitive.
Exactly.
And it could open up new markets and help me grow.
Right. And it's not just about the money.
Okay.
Better transportation could also have a big impact on tourism.
Right, because Africa has so much to offer.
Yes, from its natural beauty to its rich cultural heritage,
Right.
PID can help make it easier and more affordable for people to experience all of that.
Imagine traveling from the markets of Marrakech
Wow.
to the Serengeti without any hassle.
That would be incredible.
So PIA is about more than just building roads and bridges.
Right.
It's about building connections, fostering cultural exchange, and helping people understand each other better.
Yeah, it's about creating a more connected and harmonious world.
I like that.
And that brings us back to the question of whether PID can be a model for other continents. I think it absolutely can.
Yeah.
The world is facing some really tough challenges right now.
Like what?
Climate change,
Uh-huh.
political instability,
Right.
growing inequality.
Yeah.
We need new solutions
Okay.
that go beyond national borders and focus on working together.
So you're saying PID is a good example
Yeah.
of what can happen when countries work together
Exactly.
to solve problems and create a better future.
Yes. It gives us hope
It does.
in a world that feels more divided than ever.
It also reminds us that progress takes time
Yeah.
and effort. It requires a long-term vision,
Right.
a commitment to working together.
And the courage to try new things and embrace change.
Yeah.
The journey might be difficult,
Uh-huh.
but it's worth it.
I agree. So as we continue to look at PID, let's keep the big picture in mind. It has the potential to change not just Africa,
Yeah.
but the whole world.
Exactly. It's a story of ambition, innovation,
Yeah.
and most importantly, hope.
And it's a story that's still being written.
That's right.
The choices we make today will decide how that story ends. So let's choose wisely.
Okay.
Let's choose boldly. And let's choose a future where connection, collaboration, and shared prosperity win.
I love that.
Now let's talk about how PID is shaping the future of ICT in Africa.
ITT.
Yeah, information and communication technology.
Okay.
We've been talking a lot about physical infrastructure, but what about the digital world?
That's a good point.
Yeah.
PID is doing a lot to bridge the digital divide.
Okay.
It's expanding access to broadband internet. Think of it like building a digital highway
Okay.
that connects people to information, opportunities, and each other.
So it's not just about laying cables. It's
Right.
about making sure people can actually benefit from those connections.
Exactly.
What specific things is PID doing in this area?
Well, one example is developing national broadband strategies.
What are those?
These strategies are like roadmaps
Okay.
that help countries figure out how to expand internet access in a smart and sustainable way.
Okay.
This involves investing in infrastructure, encouraging competition in the telecom industry,
Okay.
and creating policies that make it easier for people to use ICT.
So those strategies are like the first step in
Yeah.
building a strong digital infrastructure. But what about the private sector? What role do they play in all of this?
They are absolutely essential.
Okay.
PID knows that the private sector is the driving force behind innovation and investment in ICT. So PIDA is working to make it easier for telecom companies to do business, encouraging them to invest in expanding infrastructure
Okay.
and provide better services.
So it sounds like PID provides the support
Yeah,
and the private sector brings the expertise and the money.
right. It's a partnership that uses the strengths of both the public and private sectors.
This all sounds really good.
Yeah, it has a lot of potential.
But I imagine there are still challenges when it comes to closing the digital divide in Africa.
You're right.
What are some of the biggest obstacles that PID is facing?
Well, one of the biggest problems is that the internet is still too expensive
Yeah, that makes sense.
in many parts of Africa. This is partly because there's not enough infrastructure
Okay.
and there isn't enough competition between telecom companies.
Right.
So PID is working on this by promoting infrastructure sharing, encouraging the use of new technologies
Like what?
like wireless broadband, and advocating for policies that make internet services more affordable.
So PID is attacking the problem from multiple angles.
Exactly.
But it's not just about access. What about digital literacy?
Yeah, that's important too.
People might have the internet,
Right.
but if they don't know how to use it,
Yeah,
it's not going to help much.
you're right.
Yeah.
That's why PID is investing in digital literacy programs.
What do those programs do?
They teach people how to use the internet safely,
Okay.
responsibly, and productively. These programs teach lots of different things,
Like what?
like basic computer skills
Okay.
and more advanced training in things like coding,
Wow.
web development, and digital marketing.
So it's about giving people the tools they need
Yeah,
to succeed in the digital world.
exactly.
That's a great vision.
Yeah, it is.
This brings us back to the main goal of PID, to build a more connected, integrated, and prosperous Africa.
Right. And in today's world, that means using digital technology to drive economic growth, social progress, and human development.
So PID is saying that the digital world is just as important
Yeah.
as the physical world
Yes.
when it comes to building a better future for Africa.
That's right.
Well, we've covered a lot in this part of our deep dive.
Yeah, we have.
From exploring the potential of the Grandinga Dam to understanding how PIDA is working to close the digital divide.
It's been a great discussion.
It has. We've seen that PIDA is not just about building things.
Right.
It's also about building connections,
Mm.
working together,
Yeah.
and sharing a vision for a better future.
Absolutely.
But there's still so much more to learn.
We've only scratched the surface.
Right.
It's about building connections,
Yeah.
fostering cooperation, and creating a more sustainable and equitable future for Africa and for the world.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that we're all interconnected.
And that our destinies are intertwined.
I think PIDA offers a powerful model for development, not just for Africa.
But for other parts of the world as well.
It's a model that emphasizes collaboration, sustainability, and a commitment to leaving no one behind.
It's a reminder that we can achieve great things
Yeah.
when we work together towards a common goal.
I think that's a great note to end on. PIDA is a story of hope, ambition,
Yeah.
and the power of human ingenuity. It's a story that's still being written.
And we can all be a part of it.
So thank you for joining us on this deep dive into PIDA.
It's been a pleasure.
We hope you've learned something new
And that you've been inspired
to think about the possibilities for a better future.
for Africa and for the world.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep.
Thanks for joining us today. Don't forget to subscribe to Afrotake and keep diving deep.